It's Pride Month. You know what that means. I didn't do
What
jack shit
sauce?
for Pride Month. I was originally going to record this video, and then things kind of just fell to the wayside, so I thought, hey, the next best time is now. So here we are. Lately, I find myself reflecting on something that it kind of seems inconsequential, but it's something that I think very few people would get or like really be able to fathom. So when I was a teenager, I learned a lot of things, as teenagers do. And one of those things was that I found out that there were identities that weren't just lesbian or bisexual or gay or transgender. I found out about things like asexuality and, more importantly for me, aromanticism. That leads me to the purpose of this video. I wanted to briefly talk about the way that identifying and being aromantic affects my life. I guess just in general, what it means for me. Now, part of the reason that it's on my mind is that I am constantly choosing to reevaluate my stance in life, because you never know if your beliefs have changed, and it's really easy to kind of just stay stagnant. That doesn't mean things have to change constantly, but it does mean that you should be checking up on those beliefs and trying to see if those still stand true to you. So, of course, when I was a teenager, I came to the conclusion that I was aromantic and different from my peers, which, if you think about it, teenagers will convince themselves of a lot of things. However, as I grew into an adult, these feelings did not fade, and I did not suddenly realize that I knew how to love properly and that I suddenly became some sort of relationship guru. So, spoiler, nothing changed. If anything, actually, I find this to be more true than ever, and I think had I not managed to develop the relationship that I had at the age that I did, I'd probably have great trouble doing so as an adult. Note that that is not a reflection of aromanticism as a whole, but more so who I am as a person. I find it really difficult to develop and maintain social relationships of any kind, and in general, I'm just like a really solitary person. So I've always had kind of a difficult time explaining how being aromantic impacts me, and it's kind of a weird subject, in part due to the fact that I obviously lack anybody's experience aside from my own, and thus I have no grounds for comparison. Even now, I don't really love discussing it, since I've heard like a wide gambit of responses. I am not saying that I experience any like oppression over it at all, but people can be like really weird or outright dismissive about it. Also, to be fair, it's just not pertinent information. Like, I mean, how relevant is it for me to bring that up realistically, Like, that's so random. So I guess all of this is to say, hi, I'm Angel Moron, and I'm aromantic. I do not and have never felt romantic attraction or what I would outright classify as love. In fact, I really dislike saying I love you, but over my entire life, I've become somewhat desensitized to it. In my family, I love you is kind of like saying, hey, I'll see you again soon, or I wish the best for you, or good luck at that meeting tomorrow, or drive safe, or you get the picture. It's kind of a promise in a way. Love is something different to everyone, and so when I say I don't experience it, that's still really vague. So to be fully clear, what I don't experience is romantic attraction. There's not a way to say this without sounding callous to a large portion of the populace, but my relationship from my direction is not romantic. It's kind of more like an agreement. My partner is not aromantic and does love me. Yes, they are fully aware of my feelings and have given their input on the situation. It was a foundational block of our relationship, and I think exploring how that affected our dynamic really just made our bond stronger. But to say I don't care or to call me selfish for it would be wholly inaccurate. I wish nothing but the best for them, and I think that that is the important part. We lift each other up when we struggle, and we take part in each other's achievements. We make day-to-day life bearable through each other. I would say that my biggest way of expressing my part of the relationship is through what I've heard called acts of service. People say if you like what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, and I think that that works pretty well here. My relationship is like a job, and everyone's going to be quick to apply negative connotations to that because the average person does not like their job. That said, I applied for this job and I got the position, and now every day I'm happy about it. It's fulfilling, I like having someone to take care of, and it makes me happy. My partner is my best friend, and I reap the reward of watching them flourish and work their way through daily life. I think the only reason that sounds bad out of context is that most people don't enjoy their jobs, so that like residual feeling gives this negative connotations. But remember, like any job, if I didn't like it, I would just leave. And ditto for my partner. So, happy Pride Month, I guess. I don't have much else to say. This is kind of a nothing burger video, but it is something I want to talk about because I think that like a lot of other kind of little subsects of the LGBT whatever community maybe don't have a ton of representation, and so it's kind of harder for people to accept those things when they hear about them, because it's kind of like, well, I've never heard of that before. How could that even be real? I think that our struggles build us as people, and adversity is necessary for development. Navigating this, once I figured it out, was strange, especially because at the time I didn't know anybody else I could relate to, and I wasn't really super familiar with the internet and thus didn't have any access to any like resources or knowledge. It wasn't a huge struggle, but there was definitely a period of time where I felt like I was broken, or that I was like doomed to die alone, and that nobody would ever possibly care about me. Of course, all of that was also amplified tenfold by the average teenage doom and gloom angst, and the way that when you're younger, you really just tend to think in black and white, right? So like, I saw that they're either, I saw everybody else had this future, and I just assumed that I didn't. And that whatever they had was going to be the opposite experience for me. But, I mean, remember, everything is nuanced, and there's rarely a way to lose the game of life wholly. You're never alone, you're never unwanted, all of the stuff that I have to say. But it is true. Not to be preachy, but especially with where we are at with technology right now, there are a million communities at your fingertips, which is kind of how I came to accept my existence as an aromantic person. I started looking online, I found various forums. This, of course, was quite a while ago. I really don't need any help with this now. It's just an aspect of my life, but if it's something that you're looking for, I encourage you to just look online, because there really are a billion places you could go. So I guess my conclusion for this video, again, I hate being so preachy, but so I think this June, or now it's July, by the time I get this out, it'll probably be Lord knows when. Just remember to be kind. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Extra be kind to yourself, though, because that's a slippery slope and it can be really easy to justify being mean to yourself. And I think that what we do to ourselves comes back tenfold on what we do to others. Or I guess, honestly, just do that every month. Like, just be nice. Or don't. Be evil. Woe upon ye!